Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling.
In an industry where silence often hides the truth, two of China's brightest stars just broke it together. In a move no one saw coming, Liu Yuning and Zhao Lusi have walked away from the agency that shaped their careers, not in whispers, but with pens in hand, signatures on paper, and courage in their hearts. What happened inside those walls will change how we see them forever. The world of entertainment thrives on glitz, applause, and the illusion of perfection, but behind the dazzling lights often lies a quiet storm. For Liu Yuning and Zhao Lusi, the decision to resign from Cool Entertainment was not made in a single heated moment. It was the culmination of years of silent endurance, private doubts, and an unspoken longing for creative and personal freedom. Both had once entered the agency with hope and ambition, believing it to be a gateway to dreams they had chased since their youth. And in many ways, it was. Cool Entertainment had given them visibility, opportunities, and the platform to rise to the top. Yet, with every year that passed, the cost of that success became harder to ignore. Long before the headlines and trending hashtags, there were subtle signs that the partnership between artist and agency was fraying. It began with small compromises, agreeing to projects they were lukewarm about, accepting schedules that left them physically and emotionally drained, smiling in promotional events that clashed with their own beliefs. These moments were brushed aside as the price of fame, the sacrifices every star makes. But over time, the compromises grew heavier, eroding the passion that had once driven them. Conversations with trusted friends became confessions of fatigue, frustration, and the unsettling feeling of being shaped into someone they no longer recognized. The turning point did not arrive with fanfare. It came quietly, perhaps during one of those long nights in hotel rooms between shoots, where silence pressed in and thoughts grew louder. It came in private meetings, where decisions about their careers were made without their presence, where contracts were placed before them not as opportunities but as obligations. For Zhao Lusi, the pressure to conform to manufactured narratives threatened the authenticity she valued in her craft. For Liu Yuning, witnessing this erosion of integrity in someone he admired deeply was enough to awaken his own doubts about the system they were a part of. When they finally chose to walk away, it was not simply an act of defiance. It was an affirmation of self-worth. It was the quiet but powerful recognition that no accolade, no contract, and no promise of fame could outweigh the need to stay true to oneself. Their resignation may have looked like a single, dramatic moment to the outside world, but in truth, it was the natural end to a long, often painful journey of rediscovering who they were beyond the stage and the camera. In the entertainment industry, where alliances are often fleeting and friendships can dissolve as quickly as they are formed, the bond between Liu Yuning and Zhao Lusi stood out as something rare and quietly resilient. It was never about headlines or staged moments for the cameras. Theirs was a connection built over years of shared experiences, long filming days, endless rehearsals, and those rare, stolen moments of laughter between the demands of their schedules. Behind the glamour, they were simply two people who understood the pressures the other faced. Two artists who recognized in each other a similar hunger for authenticity and a similar weariness toward the machinery of fame. When the day came for Zhao Lusi to confront the agency and submit her resignation, Liu Yuning's presence was more than just symbolic. He was there not as a co-star or a fellow industry figure, but as a friend who understood the weight of what she was about to do. He arrived quietly, without entourage or fanfare, carrying small comforts that spoke louder than any grand gesture: a thermos of her favorite tea, the script notes she had been working on, a few words of reassurance that she could hold on to in the hours ahead. In the cold, polished corridors of the agency's headquarters, such simple acts became anchors against the tide of uncertainty. Those who saw them together that day described an unspoken communication between them. the kind that comes from years of mutual respect and loyalty. While Zhao Lusi met with executives behind closed doors, Liu Yuning waited nearby, occupying himself with small tasks, yet always attuned to her return. When she emerged, her expression carrying both relief and the heaviness of finality, he was there, walking alongside her without demanding explanations. There was no need for them. He already understood. This partnership beyond the spotlight was not defined by contracts, projects, or public appearances. It existed in the quiet moments when no one else was watching, on late-night phone calls when exhaustion blurred their words, in shared silences during long car rides after particularly grueling shoots, in the trust that allowed them to speak honestly about fears and ambitions without judgment. It was this foundation of trust that gave Zhao Lusi the courage to take such a risky step, knowing she would not have to face the fallout alone. And for Liu Yuning, being at her side in that moment was not about making a statement to the industry, but about standing where a friend should stand when the world feels unsteady. Close enough to catch you if you fall, but far enough to let you walk out with your own strength. Beneath the surface of every red carpet smile and award show spotlight lies a reality that few outside the industry ever truly see. For Liu Yuning and Zhao Lusi, the public image of success masked an unrelenting weight that had been pressing on them for years. These pressures did not arrive suddenly. They built slowly, like a tide creeping in, each wave eroding a little more of their independence, their creativity, and their sense of self. It began with schedules so tightly packed that rest became a luxury, with days bleeding into nights and the concept of personal time fading into something they could barely remember. Every hour was accounted for, every appearance calculated for maximum exposure, until the line between their private lives and public personas no longer existed. But it was not only the physical exhaustion that wore them down, it was the subtle erosion of choice. Projects were presented not as opportunities, but as mandates. Contracts were signed on their behalf, deals were made without consultation, and their personal values were often secondary to commercial gain. For Zhao Lusi, this meant being linked to endorsements that conflicted with her beliefs and her image. For Liu Yuning, it meant watching as genuine artistry was often sidelined for what would generate the most headlines. They both understood the necessity of compromise in such a competitive field, but over time, the compromises began to feel like betrayals, small at first, then impossible to ignore. The emotional toll was just as severe. They were expected to present themselves as endlessly agreeable, to accept scripted narratives for variety shows or publicity campaigns, even if those narratives distorted the truth. Moments of vulnerability were discouraged. Authenticity was carefully rationed for only the most calculated of reveals. It was a constant balancing act, pleasing the industry, keeping fans engaged, and protecting what little remained of their own inner lives. As the pressures mounted, so did the silent questions. Was the success worth the cost? Could they still recognize themselves in the mirror? Or had they become products shaped by other people's hands? These were questions without easy answers, but the unease they brought could no longer be buried. In the end, the decision to leave was not just about rejecting a contract or an agency. It was about reclaiming the right to choose, to speak, and to live without the constant weight of expectations pressing down on every step they took. The final straw, a contract they refused to sign. Weeks before their resignation, the agency had presented a new project, a high-profile international campaign that would force them into a fabricated romance storyline. On paper, it looked like an instant viral hit. In reality, it would blur the line between their professional integrity and tabloid fantasy. They both said no. That no came with consequences. Legal threats, financial risks, and whispers of industry blacklisting. Walking away from millions and choosing dignity. Their contracts were worth millions of dollars, future films, global tours, brand endorsements, all gone with a signature. But walking away wasn't about money, it was about self-respect. And in a rare moment for the industry, two stars put their mental health, freedom, and values above everything else. The aftermath and the unknown future. Within hours, the hashtag Resign trended across Asia, spilling into the global feed. Fans in Seoul, Tokyo, Los Angeles, Paris, and Jakarta lit up timelines with messages of support. Production companies scrambled to adjust, international partners hesitated. But through it all, Liu Yuning and Zhao Lusi stayed silent on specifics, perhaps letting the act itself speak louder than any press statement. The inspiration behind the headlines. For fans, this isn't just a resignation. It's a reminder that real success isn't measured only by contracts or awards, but by the courage to walk away from what doesn't align with who you are. And for the industry, it's a warning shot. The era of unquestioned control may be ending. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even made you curious about what's next, make sure you subscribe to Update X24H. This is where we'll keep uncovering the truths, the triumphs, and the turning points behind the biggest names in entertainment. Thank you for watching. And remember, in a world full of noise, your voice still matters.